organization hacks for proposal professionals. That would be y'all, us, family, tips and tricks. I'm going to also try to not trip over my tongue too much. Tips and tricks to keep you organized, featuring the lovely Stephanie White and me.
Hey, everybody. We're excited you're here.
All right. First things first, let's just get the intros and the who are yous out of the way. Steph, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. So think of me as your sales friend. I always like to describe it as the north side of 15 years, because it sounds a little bit better than when you say pushing 20 in different sales operations, launch roles, and sales enablement. And for me, I'm really passionate about proposals, proposal management, where you can garner support, who should have your back, and what that can look like. So I also gave myself the title of proposal manager advocate, because really respect and appreciate what everybody does and have a passion for it myself. So a little bit about me. Nicole, how about you?
Ooh, okay. So I like to call myself a little bit of a sales ops, sales enablement unicorn. Steph and I were comparable in terms of years in our respective industries in proposal management. North of 15, heading into north of 15 territory, because you know the maths. The maths, sometimes they don't mathing. It's not mathing. Started my career with the soup to nuts sales cycle, the entire buyer and seller journey, and then honed in on the proposal management piece. And it has been a wild ride and the most amazing, awesome experience. I currently am the sales operations manager for one of North America's largest independent cybersecurity firms. And I've been with the organization for almost 7 years. And I currently manage the team that manages the bid management process for the global organization. We have a lot of sellers, a lot. But it has been amazing. And I am so happy to be here to talk to you guys about organization and how we can be smooth to go fast. Next slide. All right, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to break it down into 3 chunks. 1, I'm going to talk to you about determining your day, because I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm always like, even yesterday I was like, what day is it? It's Monday. I kept saying to myself, it's Monday, it's Monday, it's Monday, right? But we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what does that actually mean. And when I say determine your day, I don't necessarily mean what day of the week. Number 2, we're going to break your day down. How can you get the most done, maximize the hours that you have available to you in a way that is easily done and repeatable? This is not rocket science, folks, not rocket science. But when you're done with this session, you should have some tips and tricks and some tools that are actionable that you can implement immediately to see immediate results in terms of your productivity. Okay. And then number 3, we're going to talk data. And that's when Steph is going to come in and she's going to give you that juice, that good stuff about all the information that you need to collect, what you need to collect, where you need to put it, and when you need to collect it, so that you can speak confidently about who you are and what it is you do and what you bring to your organization. Okay, so everybody ready? Everybody's ready? All right, let's go. Organized. For every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. I don't know who said it, but this person is a smart person. And so I was like, yep, that's the quote, because I really, really, really believe that if you organize yourself in such a way to accomplish your tasks and you're intentional about it, you'll be able to achieve almost anything. I don't believe in impossible. I think all things are possible. Probably why I love fantasy so much. Organize your day. Fail to plan or plan to fail. Okay. And I think that any proposal person, whether you're new or you've been entrenched in the game for a minute, like some of us, we know that whenever you start to veer off task or veer off process or don't really organize yourself, things will quickly start to fall apart. Your house of cards will get blown all the way over. And I find that in order to center yourself, you got to come back to what you know, which is organization. So let's get into it. The 3-day work week. So this was a concept that I happened to learn during a networking event. And that networking event had this speaker. She was a virtual assistant. And this was the first time I had ever heard of this concept, but it changed the way I went about doing my job, the way about literally actually any and everything, any project that I had in front of me that was in my purview, or personal or professional, even hobbies, follow this workflow for me. Now, one of the things I want to make sure that you guys understand coming out of this is that in order to do this, you do not necessarily have to segment this into a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You could actually segment this into like between 10 and 12, between 12 and 2, between 3 and 5. It can happen all in one day. But if you break your steps down into this order of prepare, plan, and execute, then at the least you have tasks dedicated to each area that you can then make very intentional and be very specific about, okay? So let's talk about this. Day 1, we prepare. Day 2, we plan. And day 3, we execute, right? When I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, this is the process that I follow. It is a methodology, kind of like a way of thinking. What day is it? So it's not Tuesday. What I mean by that is this a day that I'm going to plan? Is this a day that I'm going to prepare? Or is this the day that I will be executing on the things that I prepared and planned for? So when we're looking at what things we have to do, so I'm going to continually use the RFP process as my examples, because I really want to make it relatable back to what you guys are doing every single day and what I do every day, basically. So when I'm looking at an RFP and I'm saying that today is a preparation day, what does that look like? Well, that could look like pulling down documentation. That can look like spending some time to just read the RFP. Like rule number 1, read the RFP. Okay. What are we doing if we're not reading it? It could be preparing. So it could be scheduling tasks that I need in order to, things I need to do in order to get to planning, or in order to get to execution. But execution is really just a result of all the things that we do when we are preparing and we are planning. So first things first, decide what day you're going to have. Now, does this have to happen in order? Ideally, yes. You want to prepare, then you want to plan, then you want to execute on what you prepared and planned for. Okay. And like I said, just a quick reminder, you can do all of this in one day. I'm going to show you how you can do that. Prepare. Assess everything you need to do in order to execute on your task. So you're thinking about the end from the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. You're thinking about the end from the beginning. So in the end, you're a proposal manager. You want a completed, highly robust document, presentation, whatever it has to be that needs to go to your customer. That's the end goal. Now you're walking it backwards and you're thinking about all the things that you need to do in order to get to the end. And everybody's process can be a little bit different, right? But this is how you assess for yourself. What are those things? So reading the RFP, pulling it down, scheduling a call with your seller so you can gain a better understanding prior to your kickoff, gain a better understanding of the customer, how it was qualified, who you're competing against, getting a lay of the land, spending time researching the customer themselves, perhaps going on their website, reading some reviews about them, what business they're in, their industry, what are the things that are affecting their industry. All these things will help you tell a better story, okay? Then you have your planning day. Determine the who, the what, the when, and the where of your tasks. Who do you need to talk to? What is it that you need to do? Where does that need to happen? When does it need to get done? So these types of tasks, you could be scheduling calls or having those calls, okay? So you're going through, you're determining who your subject matter experts are. Who do you need to bring into the conversation in order to execute on this RFP, right? You might need to say you have a third-party vendor that is supporting your response. You might need to know, okay, who from that business do I need to reach out to? Maybe you need to pull in an executive person from your organization in order to support. But you just need to find out who are all of the people that are going to help you get this done. What are they going to do? What are you going to do? Okay. Communicate all of that. Where does this all need to happen? Are you guys in office? Are you doing it virtually? Do you have a SharePoint site that you're hosting all of your documents in and you're sharing all of that information to? And then when does all of this need to get done? What are your internal deadlines? What is the deadline for the submission? What is the deadline for your questions? Is there an intent to respond? What's the deadline for that? All of these things will help you plan out your process. Okay. And then what you're going to do once you've prepared and you planned it out, now you're going to go ahead and you're going to execute on all of it. So execution days are days when you're actually having all of your meetings. It's a day when you're writing. For me, a lot of execution days, I'm focused in an area. Usually it's a review cycle for my teams, or it is a day, sometimes it's multiple review cycles. Sometimes it's writing days where I'm just blocking out time to write so that I can just focus really on the story that I'm telling for this particular response that I'm working on. So take everything you've prepared, you've plugged that into your plan, you've taken your plan, and now you're executing on it. Okay, so this is how your 3-day breakdown. Number 2, break down your day. Okay, or break your day down. The best way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Okay, because you're going to be full by the time it's over. You're going to be full. That's fine. We know that. It's an expectation. But if you bite at it a little slowly, you're not going to realize that you've eaten the entire thing or you've mastered your entire document until you've hit send and it's out the door and it's done. Then you can pat yourself on the back and, probably take a digestive enzyme because it's a lot. Elephants are big. Something that I think is super important about the way we think when we're as proposal managers, we have to be intentional. And so I thought of this kind of like while I was building this out, this thought came to me. To be intentional is to be specific about what you're doing and why. All right. So if you're organizing your day, you're being intentional about your outcomes. Remember, I said you want to track it from the end to the beginning. You're thinking about what your final product is going to be. And so as you prepare and you plan and you execute, you're being intentional about all of the things that you have to do in order to get to the end. Now, each task you're taking on or completing is very specific to an outcome. So you're being intentional about the things you're doing. So it's very specific. You know what it is that you're doing. This is why you have your 3 days. And you know why you're doing it, right? We want to get to a completed proposal submission, right? So be intentional, be specific, know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Where are you supposed to be? I ask myself, there's a lot. What am I supposed to be doing? And it's usually when I'm not sitting in front of my calendar. I don't have my calendar. I don't have access to it. I'll have a minute where I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? And I usually grab my phone and I pull up my calendar just to get that answer. This is what I mean about eating your elephant one bite at a time. And this is how you do that. Create a schedule. Mind blowing, right? Mind blowing, life changing. It's wild. I can't believe it's revolutionary. Who never thought about creating a schedule? How many people do you know who actually do this though? Like, I know for myself, right? This is why we're good at what we do.
Listen, my calendar, I'm just going to say my calendar is color coded. That is like the level of planning that needs to happen sometimes when we're juggling all these proposals.
Yep. And I agree because mine is too. Every single step, every single meeting has a specific color code. So even if I'm not 100% sure what it is, if I see a flash of color, I know exactly what it is. right? And it takes some time to maybe even get to that point. But a sea of blue in your calendar is just like, it's all the same, right? So that's why I color code. But anyway, create a schedule. You know what time your day starts. You know ideally what time your day, you would like your day to end. We are not promoting the burnout culture over here, okay? So design your life. And this is how you go about doing that. You create a schedule and then block your calendar. So you know what you need to do. Now you break it all down in a way that allows you to get all of your tasks done. Studies have been shown that if you write the task down, schedule the time to do it, you are more likely to complete that task. This is where we need to get to. You know, it's not necessarily about having a perfect day. It's about having a well-executed day. You want to continually be moving forward, because if your days are not well executed, things will slip and fall through the cracks. As a proposal person, a large part of your time is getting out of the way so that people can do things that you ask them to do. But what does that mean for you? It means you got to follow up. You're spending a lot of time following up with your teams. So you need to have the opportunity to do that, like to schedule that time out and know when you need to follow up so that things don't start to pile up. 2 or 3 days don't pass. You're ending up towards the end of your proposal process, or ending towards the end or getting closer to your deadline. And all of a sudden you're realizing, wait a minute, I don't have that deliverable. I don't have that deliverable. No, so-and-so didn't get back to me on that from that email or after that phone call. This is blocking your calendar allows you to schedule the time for the little things. Follow-up tends to be a little thing amongst the bigger things, right? And so because of that, it can fall through the cracks. So I schedule time for even my emails, and I call it email management. And depending on this week and last week, I was traveling, I was at SKO for my organization. And so the emails pile up because you're in sessions, you're not working with people with your team, and you don't necessarily have the time to jump in and respond really quickly to that email. So you're having days and days of email pile up. The best way to tackle that, schedule time specifically for that task, okay? The next thing we want to talk about though, is what you need in order to do all of that, which is focus. So let's talk about flow state work. This is not my concept, but this is a concept I believe in. I believe in it so much. Like I would stand on a roof with a megaphone and talk about, you need to be in the flow. You do. You got to get into the flow state. You have to absolutely do this. How does that happen? You got to lose your distractions, right? So wherever you happen to be working, we're doing a lot of remote work, right? And no matter where that happens to be happening, you need to be in an area where you can zone in and get clear about what it is that you need to do and when you need to get it done by. All right? Lose your distractions. Turn off notifications. I feel like I'm a little bit of Pavlov's dogs when it comes to that ping from Teams or Slack or my email notifications. I immediately turn my head to see like who, and thank goodness I have the previews, so I can quickly see like, who is it? Okay, no, all right, good. I can leave that alone until I'm out of this state. But even that few seconds of turning my head can cost me, So if you're one of those people who is compelled to respond, turn off your notifications when you're in your schedule. Turn them off, especially if you need to have dedicated writing time, dedicated reading time, or dedicated review time, okay? Turn them off, or put yourself into DND, do not disturb, and focus on the tasks that you need to get done. Complex tasks require more focus, all right? Block your calendar for 1 to 2 hours for this. At the 2-hour mark, you will start to shift a little bit. You might start to turn your head a little bit more. But I promise you, for those 1 to 2 hours, once you've turned off your notifications, you're in a place where you have no distractions, you're going to be so in the zone, you will be surprised at how much you will be able to get done. It's actually astounding. And it's, oh, by the way, if nobody told you, multitasking is not a thing. Not real. It's a whole lie. Okay. You can only do one thing excellently at once. You can do many things at the same time, but in the minute, you're doing one specific thing. What happens if somebody interrupts you? Turn your complete attention to that person, give them all your attention, solve the problem, tackle the task, and then immediately return your focus to where you were immediately. If not, there is a cost to that, but it is not as high as if you were to try to continue doing what you're doing and answer the question and solve the problem. Forget and in this type of situation. It's this or that. And literally, based on my personal philosophy, it's the only time in life where I'm like this or that. For me, life is all about this and that, but not when it comes to being focused and not when it comes to being task driven or oriented to completion of a project. All right. So this or that. I'm focused on this or I'm focused on that, not this and that. Okay. Reset. This is the opportunity, and you're going to definitely schedule reset time as well. This is where you get up, you go for a walk, you go get some water, clear your mind, go grab coffee, go on a quick coffee run, come back. You will be completely ready to drive back into your flow state. Now, whatever that happens to be. After you reset, after I reset, I like to do smaller tasks, email management. That's when I'll go and check my notifications for Slack, for Teams, see what everybody has been saying. Oh, hey, yeah, that's great. Got that. Thanks. No problem. Here's this, whatever it happens to be. I do a small task after reset because then it allows me to ramp up to a bigger task where I have a bigger block of time scheduled. If you only really needed one big massive chunk, like one set of focus time for the day, that's great. Then you reset and then you schedule all of your smaller tasks. And before you know it, your day is done and you can move on. So resets, after resets, that would be a perfect time to do all of your follow-ups, whether that's a phone call or an email. After reset, a good post-reset activity would also be scheduling all of your calls. Our process includes kickoff calls, pricing calls, our submission review calls, yeah, primarily. And so I will use my post reset time if I have not done those schedulings, or if I have a new bid coming in the midweek where I'm wrapping up an old bid, then I'll use that time to do all the scheduling for the new stuff. Okay. So focus, lose the distractions, turn off your notifications or put yourself in do not disturb. Block more complex tasks in 1 to 2 hour increments, and then reset, schedule your time for each of these, schedule your reset, come back, do a quick small task, and then jump back into your more complex task. Okay.
And Nicole, I would just say, sorry, jumping in here.
No, go ahead.
So if you are not at a point already where you feel like you have control of your calendar, and I don't mean other people bombing your calendar, because that's a whole other problem, but just committing to yourself. One of the hacks that I found was super helpful was I bring all the things to my flow state time. So I have my fresh coffee, I have my water, and I have my snacks. So when my mind maybe starts to wander because maybe I want to maybe I want to go do the like shiny things over there rather than the thing I need to do. I can cut a lot of those excuses for myself and just commit. And sometimes it's just not getting up and walking away for that 3-minute, coffee refill that allows you to really get deep in your flow.
100%. 100%. I'm prepped and ready. My gun is loaded. Okay. Sorry for anybody you get it. Basically, I have all my ammunition with me. I've got all my pens. Like my setup is very friendly to the way that I process information and can get through things. Right. And I have space behind me, which is technically my bed, but I have space behind me and I'll throw anything that is a distraction, read my phone behind me. So, and immediately because I also have a phone stand where I can actually see my phone, but I was finding that I kept looking at it every time a notification went off. The day I took that phone and put it behind me, I didn't shift or turn from what was happening in front of me. I was locked in, and I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to continue to keep the phone behind me. All right, moving on. That's just a lot of money. It's a lot of money. This is the cost of distractions to the United States economy. Sorry for my Canucks. I'm also one. I don't have a Canadian number. So is Steph. She's on that side of me on the screen. It's a lot of money. It's a lot. Distractions cost us a lot of money. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are as undistracted and as unbothered about how we go about smoothing out our day as possible, right? Our effectiveness, and Steph's going to talk about this, our effectiveness is really about not just what we're doing, but how much are we saving, right? How much time are you saving? How much effort are you saving your organization by being smooth, by being focused, by being locked in on your tasks? Drum roll, please. Okay, so since earlier this year, I have been thinking very intentionally about how to support the proposal manager in this effort, in organization and in data capture. And I came up with a planner. So essentially what it is, it's called the Proposal Manager's Planner. These are two of the original colorways. For it. It will be one, there will be also versions available for people managers, so people like myself who are managing proposal teams. But I really wanted to come up with a product, and I'll show you the physical one, and hopefully all this light. Ooh, can you see this? No camera? Okay, the blur is like killing it. Okay, guys, forget it. But I really wanted to come up with a product that encapsulated all of the ways that we need to be organized and that allowed us to organize ourselves, spoke our language, because I am a tactical organizer type of person. I have gel pen sets, the whole nine, right? And I like to write down what I have to do every day. So I block my calendar, so I absolutely use my Outlook, but I take that same information and I write it down into my actual planner. It wasn't until for years I was just using a regular notebook for my to-dos and organizing my day. And it was my notebook that allowed me to determine what I actually did every day. Like my notebook held the story of my career in it. It was how I built my resume. And I realized that, okay, well, how we don't have anything specific for us. And I wanted something that was for us, that spoke our language and that used information that housed information that we would need. So in the planner, you will find pages, and I would pivot to this really quickly, but that would kick me out of the screen share. So perhaps at the end, I'll jump back in and then I'll share my screen so you guys can actually see it. But it has RFP tracking metrics. It has for your month. So you literally can go through, write down all of your RFPs, what you're working on for the month, who your seller is, what region, what your product or service is, when your questions are due, when the submission is due, when your intent to respond is, capture all of that. I also wanted to take care of you as the proposal person. You're not just your job. You're a multifaceted person. You're wearing many, many hats. So let's take care of all of you. So I also have pages in there that are dedicated to your self-care. I want you to track what you're eating. I want you to track that you're getting enough water. I want you to track, Steph takes a sip. I want you to track how you feel, right? What kind of exercise are you getting in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening? Put all of that down. Take an assessment of your whole self. I wanted to really be able to, wanted proposal people to really be able to consider their entire well-being, right? And plan for it, right? There's also checklists that help you go through each of the aspects of the proposal and response process. There is all the stuff you have to think about for your submission. There's all the things that you have to think about when you get to the shortlist and you have to prepare a presentation for your sellers and your customers. There is tracking all of your RFP metrics. How many shortlisted? How many were awarded? How many were lost? Why were they lost? There is also room for just straight up note taking, just a place where you can just go and take notes. The planners will be available in hard copy, as I just showed you, but also in a digital format. And I'm low-key obsessed with the digital. Like I love the design. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. And they're available for pre-order. So if you're looking for information, check me out, pmplanner@rfpqueen.ca, or hit me up on LinkedIn and I will get you all of the details, including price points and all of that good stuff. But the number one thing I want you guys to remember when it comes to the planner is this: it will allow you to tell the story of your career. You don't have to worry about your Excel spreadsheets that with all that data, your CRMs that have all that data that belong to the companies that you work for. This is the opportunity to take your data about your personal experience, put it in one place, and then now you have something that you can go back to your management with. It gives you an opportunity to create the seat at the table that we all know we need. And it can tell you about the impact that you're having on your organization. So that's a proposal manager planner. You guys are the first to hear it. Now is the time. Go ahead and drop your your number in the chat from 1 to 10. Okay. Choose a number 1 to 10. 3 people will get it for free. Okay. And whoever those 3 people are, I absolutely want you to give me your feedback. Give me all your notes. Nicole, I hate this. This sucks. Can you add this? I really love this, or this makes no sense. But tell me all the feedback. Okay. I'm like I said, it's intentional. I thought about you guys and myself when I was designing it. And so, yes. Okay. Up next, the lovely Steph White.
So first of all, that was a solid transition, talking about, the hold person and the value that you bring. Also, I'm pretty sure I heard 11 different transitions of accents. So like, you did not disappoint. Thank you for that. Cannot promise any accents on my part, everybody. But I promise also I will not make this section boring. I'm going to talk about data. Now, before you bail out on the call, data is your friend. We're going to dig into a little bit of how you can use data to show your ROI to the business, to leadership, to your peers, to all of those around you, so that it's your full story, right? It's how you're showing up and the impact you're making beyond just submitting the RFP. So why the heck do I care about this? I did not share in my intro. I do work at one of the leading sales response platform companies. And, for me, I've spent a lot of years responding to RFPs as a seller and then as a sales leader. And then the last couple of years, I've been responsible for reviewing and overseeing other people completing security questionnaires and RFIs and RFPs. And so it's really for me about how do we create the space and the frankly megaphone to give you all the voice that you need in rooms that you're not in. How do we tell your story? So it's not just like, oh, they're over there doing RFPs, it's happening behind a magic curtain, but that's just the thing that's happening. To this person is touching all of these aspects of the business. That's when you start to be able to ask for more resources like automation tools and all that good stuff. It's also when you start being able to position yourself for promotions and pay increases and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about that. So if you want to flip ahead, please, Nicole. Amazing. Okay. So the basics. This is something you are all likely already measuring, right? You're thinking about the basic stuff. What's the total dollars in terms of revenue that I'm bringing into the business in a year? What is my response rate? What is my time to completion? And then win rates. So whether you're doing that based on a number, a fraction, or based on a percentage. Basic stuff, valuable in terms of giving a quantifiable baseline, but we can do better. So let's flip ahead to the next one. And we're going to talk about how you can start to talk about value-based storytelling. Okay. So setting new metrics. These are especially great if you are in a new role, if you are new to your role, or if you have just entered a new transition period. So let's say you're looking to change your response process. If the team is restructuring, if anything significant is changing in the business, it's a great opportunity to set some new metrics. So let's talk about baselines. You need to resist your urge to jump in. I know we all want to do it. I am currently backfilling for our proposal manager who is on PTO this week, and there's 6 projects in flight. And it took everything in me not to like 8 o'clock this morning, just be spamming everyone on Slack, working through my tool, doing all the things. Set your baselines. So in order to be able to evaluate your ROI for the business, so the return on investment that the business is getting from you, you need to establish some new baseline metrics. Make sure that you sample and collect the average time spent for your key stakeholders to really establish what is the current cost to the business for each response today. Okay, and what that can look like is a simple Google form or something different where you reach out to your standard SMEs and you say, hey, on average, how many hours do you spend to complete an RFP, a security questionnaire? Get that sample data, then it's as easy as you can multiply that across the volume that you know is happening in a month. Really, really simple math. It will give you a good baseline of the cost to the business that you may not see today, okay? And then align your milestones. So once you have your baselines, identify the current opportunities based on the scope of your role and set your milestones for impact. So what this should look like is 30, 60, 90, 6 months, and 12 months. And things that you want to take into consideration if you have a tool at your disposal are things like how you're going to weave in, freshness of your content based on review cycles, for example, or your automation scores. Okay. You want to have a friend who has a voice in the revenue team. I oversee the proposal response function at my current organization, and part of my monthly dashboard that reports on multiple functions to the business is a section solely dedicated to sales response. And so it is a standard scorecard. I'm going to show you a little bit of what that can start to look like, but it is critical that you are positioned as a seller within the business, not an asterisk on a deal that gets won by an account executive or anybody else, but you are a valuable resource that is bringing in revenue. You are not the tool, you are a team member, and that's really important, okay? So the above and beyond stuff. An often untapped opportunity that I see is looking at the other opportunities within the business. If you're a proposal manager, you're working with InfoSec, you're working with product, you're working with customer success, you're working with AEs, you're working with any number of resources. You have a very unique opportunity to provide insight to senior leadership on some processes or things that are happening in the business that could be optimized. When you talk about the value that you can add to the business, being able to say, hey, not sure if you realized over in product, they have this great way of updating their documentation, XYZ. That would be super valuable for product marketing to look to leverage. I could help share some of those best practices with you. That is going to help you gain alliances across the business. It's also going to help demonstrate some more value for you. So when you're setting your new metrics, set your baseline, align your milestones. And again, 30, 60, 90, 6 months, 12 months, and make sure you've got some of that above and beyond content in there so that you can show the broader scope of your impact. Okay, if we can flip ahead, please. Amazing. Okay, so your ROI. It pains me when I hear people say, well, I brought in, $100 million to the business, and I feel like they just want me to work 60 hours a week and I'm over in a corner. And when I ask for help, no one answers. It pains me on all kinds of levels. What I want to make sure is super clear to everybody. Your ROI to the business is the revenue you're adding to the business plus the time you're removing from it. So Nicole mentioned this earlier, which was a perfect little cookie crumb there for you. But it is not, my worth, hello, leader, is that I brought in $80 million this year. My worth is that I brought in 80 and I saved 15 million. So that real number of value to the business is 95. And make sure you're measuring both of those things monthly. You'll continue to optimize the business, find efficiencies, and drive more revenue. And that's when you really put yourself in a position of power and authority and expertise, which is what you all want. All right, we flip ahead, Nicole. Thank you. Okay. All right. So showing your value. So I broke this down into 4 stages. And, it's measure and set your baselines for the cost and opportunity for the business. Share this data. Please do not collect the data, put it in a notebook. No matter how wonderful the notebook may be, it should not only live in a notebook. You should be sharing that and bringing that forth to your revenue leader, whoever it is, whether you report to them or not. Hey, so-and-so CRO, just so you know, here's what I've identified and what I'm going to work towards to support the revenue engine. Whoever it is, make sure you've made it clear that you are in their corner working towards a broader goal for the team. Part of phase 2 is establishing the key priorities for the business and getting alignment with leadership on those milestones. So you've drafted the milestones, you've thought about the bonus things that you can add to it. You've thought about things like review cycles, freshness scores, automation targets you want to work towards. Share it, get alignment with it. Allison, love that you jumped in here with a question, and I'm going to respond in real time if that's cool, Nicole. Awesome. Okay. So calculating time to save the company. I do pulses so I mentioned SMEs when you're setting those new metrics. I do a pulse every other month. That's just the frequency that works for our volume and our business. And I go back and say, again, on average in this last month, how many hours did it take you to respond to an RFP? I can tell you, we introduced a new process in May at my current organization, and I've done 2 of the pulses since May. And what we've seen is from the baseline of, let's say, an average of, I'll just pull it out of the air, 6 hours for a SME, a seller SME to be working on an RFP. We were then able to say 60 days later, that dropped to 4.5 hours. And 60 days again after that, we saw that at, let's say, 4 hours. We can then quantify that, right? So I can say, well, in the last 60 days, we've saved half an hour per SME. There was 10 of them. We did a total volume of 50 RFPs, right? And so we're saying half an hour times 10 times 50 RFPs. There is the number of hours, roughly speaking, that you can reasonably say you've saved. Yes, it is going based on people's personal opinion, but generally speaking, people are fairly accurate when they're reporting those numbers. Okay. So sorry, Nicole, if we can just flip back to the other slide there that had the 4-stage dots on it. Where'd you go? There you go. Okay. Oh, my pleasure, Allison. So phase 3, deliver proposals and partner cross-functionally to identify opportunities for the business. None of this means anything if you can't actually write and get the darn things out the door, right? You've set your vision, you've gotten alignment, you now start delivering on your vision, right? And moving into phase 4, measure your impact based on the milestones. Report on it, report on it, report on it, report on it. When you're talking about being organized with what you're doing, block 1 day at the end of each month. It could be the start of the next month, whatever works for your business cycle, and have that dedicated time where you go back and you update those metrics. And we can get into a conversation of how to graph that for sure, but you want to show the comparable gains that you've made for the business since the previous month. Okay. This is like, how are you adding value? Add it up. Don't wait 6 months to do that. Do it monthly. Show those incremental gains. Okay. And share your thoughts for your next targets. It may be a great opportunity for you to say, listen, my goal was to actually find 10% efficiency in our sales process. Turns out this month I beat it by 12%. So now my new goal is to actually hit 15%. How does that sound to everybody, right? Get that alignment, get people excited. That will just help position you for the seat at the table that we're talking about. You will start getting asked and consulted about more strategic planning, and that is key. So if we flip ahead, I'm going to show you some sample KPIs. Okay, so the ones on the left, again, pretty typical, where you'd see people talk about, this much new business won, 20 out of 25 proposals were completed at, let's say, 80% response rate for those who like to do it that way. 18 out of 20 were won, and we took 12 days to respond. What I'd like to call out in this left-hand column is the stuff that is in brackets in the smaller font. This is your month-over-month comparison. Regardless of whether you are doing charts, graphs, or you're just putting text, always, always, always show your reference point to the previous month. This is your incremental value, okay? So 12 days to respond in and of itself may not be that exciting to somebody. The minute you say, it took me 12 days on average to respond this month, and that's a decrease of 8 days over last month, they're gonna go, hey, what you been doing? Like, how'd you do that? Tell me more. You're gonna start to get your audience.
And that really speaks back to the intentionality, the impact that shows your impact, right? Not just 12 days, but reduction by 8 days. That's where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is the bonus stuff on the right? So we've got the blue and the turquoise up top. So let's assume we've all been reporting on the stuff on the left in some capacity, right? How much revenue you're bringing in, what you're doing with your things. Let's talk about the story you start to be able to tell with the data on the right. So, $17,000 in SME cost savings. Now, you're going to have to make some assumptions here. Generally speaking, you can get a rough estimate from somebody in people ops, or you can just Google it, saying if you're at a professional organization, making an assumption of, let's say, an average of $100 an hour, fully loaded cost for a senior SME, probably not out of whack. If anything, that might be low depending on the industry you're in. But being able to say, listen, I didn't just save 170 hours. I saved the business $17,000 in SME time in this period. That is another dollar value. We talk about this. It's about the dollar you brought in, being the pink at the top, and the dollars you saved the business, being the turquoise. That's your value point. The stuff underneath in the purpley bluey color. So automation, this is so important. This is something that can often get lost. What are you doing with automation? If you're not reviewing your content, if you are not looking to optimize the processes you have, and I'm not saying machines replace people, I'm saying looking at your process and figuring out how you can automate components of it, then you're missing out on an opportunity. And again, this is about showing efficiency. So we've got the little theoretical plus 13% there increase in automation. The 170 hours saved by SMEs. Allison, this went back to your question. This is where you can do a pulse and pull that data. That's what drove the turquoise one on top with the assumption of $100 an hour. And then, at the bottom, if you have a tool reporting on your freshness scores, sometimes content is an iceberg. They see the tip of it that comes out in the pretty polished RFP, RFI security questionnaire. It looks wonderful. They don't know what you had to do to find that wonderful content. And so having the balance of focusing on, here's the big picture, proactive things that I'm doing to manage our content, make sure review cycles are set up, make sure stuff is fresh. So when I need it, we can find it faster, to balance out just the reactive, let's get the proposal back out the door, is really the key to driving the message of your overall value. And I'll tie this up with a bow on the next slide. If you don't mind flipping ahead, there we go. So as you organize and plan your workload, don't forget to prioritize how you're going to share your results. Your ROI is money added and money saved. So be intentional about how you're planning your week. Be intentional about how you are planning your career growth conversations within your organization and setting yourself up to have broader support, the seat at the table, and a more responsive leadership team when you do need to ask for help, time, resources, support, all of the above, and you'll knock it out of the park. That's it. Easy, right?
That was amazing. That was amazing.